Let's head live to Ramallah now, where the Palestinian foreign minister is holding a media briefing to address Israeli settler violence in the occupied West Bank. Let's take a listen.
What we are witnessing is a deliberate and systematic use of Israeli settler terrorism as an instrument of entrenching this unlawful occupation and colonial settlement enterprise. If we look at settler terrorism, we see that it spares no area. I mean, I just picked several areas, and the list can go on and on. If you look at Jalut, Taiba, Dar Dibwan, Mas'udiyya, Beit Imrin, Susia, Dar Jrir, Masafer Yatta, Til, Beit Furik, Beta, Atuf, Ras Al Ahmar, Khirbat Halawe, Al-Mghayr, Huwara, Asira Al-Shamaliyya, Burin, Qasra, Qaryut, Qarawat Bani Hassan, many others. It's everywhere. It's from the north to the south of the West Bank, sparing no village, no city, no town. The atrocities committed in Til on July 24, like those before it, and probably like the ones that will come in the future, are not isolated incidents. They are part of this systematic campaign of terror aimed at driving us away and out from our land and facilitating Israel's illegal settlement and expansion and the annexation of the whole of the West Bank. Over the past 3 years, settler terrorism has undergone a dangerous transformation. I mean, we've had settler terrorism before, but there is this dangerous transformation. It has become more organized, more coordinated, more heavily armed, and more destructive. Armed settlers and militias today operate openly and across the occupied Palestinian territory under the protection of the Israeli forces or in direct support of those forces. Across the occupied territory, Israeli settler militias are killing us, inflicting torture, including sexual violence, burning homes, attacking places of worship, destroying livelihoods, and forcing entire communities from their land. Today, we should always say that occupation no longer merely tolerates settler terrorism. It increasingly relies on it. It's not just, a group here and there, a number here and there, like Netanyahu boasts. It's only 100 settlers that are doing all this havoc. No, it is an organized terror on which the occupation increasingly relies. What we are witnessing is not a failure of law enforcement, but the progressive institutionalization of settler terrorism as an instrument of Israel's occupation and territorial expansion and annexation. But let us be very clear. International humanitarian law clearly says that Israel, as the occupying power, bears the primary legal responsibility for the safety and protection of every Palestinian civilian living under its occupation. And we all know that this is very far from what is actually being carried out. That obligation requires Israel not only to refrain from harming the protected population, but also to prevent, suppress, investigate, and punish violence or terror committed by Israeli settlers. But Israel instead has chosen to arm, protect, and empower settler militias and guarantees them impunity. Now, when the occupying power protects attackers instead of the protected population, these crimes of the settlers cannot be dismissed as private measures by settlers or as private acts of violence. They engage the responsibility of the occupying power itself. The state, as an occupier, is responsible.
All right, for more on this, you've been listening to the Palestinian foreign minister discussing the increase in violent settler attacks in the occupied West Bank. We're going to go now to our correspondent Nida Ibrahim, who's been following the story for us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Nida, settler terrorism has undergone, quote, a dangerous transformation. What did the minister mean by that?
She means that it's no longer just separate settler attacks that are being conducted by extreme settlers, right-wing people who are just being out of the law, trying to intimidate people, but rather an instrument of the Israeli system that is acting in a way to dispossess people from their lands, to displace them and replace them by Israeli settlers. She challenged the Israeli framing of the settler violence, which Netanyahu has been talking about in international media, trying to say, you know, these are just a few random settlers, we are trying to combat them, trying to label this as a failure of the security institution to confront them, when indeed the state has been arming these settlers, has been allowing and enabling them to continue their attacks with no accountability whatsoever. And we've just reported in the past week how Aoud al-Hadalin had been killed. His shooting was filmed on camera. It was analyzed by Al-Haq organization, showing several elements of how it's clear that this is the settler who killed him. And he still roams free after a 3-day house arrest. This is not random. This is not just one incident here or there. This is a systematic, organizational, instrumental part of Israel's occupation, which is to get Palestinians out of their lands one way or another. And settler violence is one instrument, one key element of implementing Israel's annexation of the occupied West Bank. While Israel has not declared this annexation on paper, on the ground, we see it happening day in and day out. Every commute from one city to another, from one village to another, can be a deadly journey, can be a dangerous journey because of these continued settler attacks. And these settlers do not stop at just attacking Palestinians on the move. They burn homes, they steal livestock, which is very important for the Bedouin communities to stay where they are. That's why they've been displacing. Their violence has been the real reason for displacing tens of and dozens of Bedouin communities of the lands that they've been on for decades, the only homes they've known. So that transformation is what the foreign minister is talking about. It's settler violence as a key instrument of Israel's annexation, and how the Israeli government is enabling these settler attacks in order to achieve its program of displacing Palestinians and get their lands.
So